I'd like to call this March 3rd, 2023 McLean County Board Finance Committee meeting to order. We have, just see Mr. Erickson, I'm sorry I didn't. We have 5 members present. Ms. Roseman is absent. So we can conduct business. I would like a motion to approve the meeting minutes for April 5th, 2023. We have a motion by Vice Chair Lehman and a second by Member Erickson. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And we're 2B and recommend approval of budget of bills and transfers. Those were sent to us earlier today, maybe even yesterday, I think. But our total for is $1,240,682.67. May I have them? And they have all been approved and reviewed for payment by our auditor, Michelle Anderson. May I have a motion to approve? We have a motion by Member Rogel, a second by Member Friedrich. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Now we're moving on to 3, and that's appearances by members of the public or county employees. Do we have any?
We have had no requests for this meeting. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. We are moving on then to 4A, and that is Marshall Thompson, Director of Animal Control. She doesn't have any action items. However, she does have her monthly report, and Ms. Thompson. Go right ahead.
Good evening.
Share good news, I guess, right?
Right. Everything is doing really well. We're trending a little higher on our dogs and our cats, and our transfers are up as well, so that's really good. And our bites are trending low, so those are the good directions that we'd like to see those numbers going. And we're in rabbit and goose season. So those are the fun things to report today.
Very good. Are you going to stay for the meeting? Because I have a question from a constituent that I'd like to talk to you about. And I'm sorry I didn't catch you before the meeting, so. All right, very good. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much. We're going to move on to 4B, 1A, and that is request approval of a resolution authorizing the county chair to distribute funds on defaulted surrender of mobile home MG 00020210. And may I have a motion on that? A motion by Member Friedrich and a second by Member Erickson. Thank you. Ms. McNeil is here.
Good afternoon. And this particular situation is where the taxpayer just simply entered into a payment agreement and didn't maintain that payment agreement. So the trustee's office has to disperse what they have received, and that's what this request is asking.
Are there questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor of B1A, and that is the resolution authorizing for disperse funds, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving to 4B, 4B1B, and that's accept and place on file the treasurer's financial reports, which were distributed to us. And may I have a motion on that? I have a motion by Vice Chair Lehman and a second by Member Rogal. And the floor is yours, Ms. McNeil.
Thank you. The first report you have is my monthly report on the tax revenue coming from the state of Illinois. And for the month of April, our receipts were $1,621,000, and that was down compared to 2022. The categories, though, that it was down in the income tax and the PPRT, the calculations out of those funds can vary because it's not based on exactly what our sales were, like sales tax. There are formulas at the state level, Illinois Department of Revenue. And then Illinois Department of Revenue, in part of these formulas, sometimes they have catch-ups. Sometimes they're distributing overpayment or an overage in the local government distributive fund. That was what was going on last year. So I would expect to keep seeing our disbursements in 2023 to be lower than 2022. Like I said, because their formula last year included the disbursement of extra monies from prior years or an overage in their fund. So, but we'll continue to watch it. Again, the income over all of those categories was down by 138,000. The year-to-date comparison here in 2023. First 4 months of the year, we have $6,206,000 compared to $6,053,000. So we're still up compared to 2022. And in looking at budget, if we just estimate budget, we would be about $4,600,000 right now. Again, we're $6,206,000, so we're $1,605,000 above budget. The shared sales tax. That's not affected by what I was describing earlier with the income tax and the PPRT, obviously because shared sales tax is based off of sales tax. And our sales tax numbers are coming in very strong here still in 2023. And you could see that very first number up there was 23% above where we were in April of 2022. So anyway, getting into the nitty gritty, first 4 months of the year, we have $1,760,000 in our shared sales tax revenue from City of Bloomington and Town of Normal, compared to $1,602,000. So we're running ahead of 2022 by $157,939. The fund has equity of $15,956,000. Property tax revenue. By the time we sit down next month, we'll have a distribution to the county. Our tax bills went out last week, and we are getting flooded with payments already. First installment is kind of like a freight train coming through. It is fast and furious. And then things kind of level off a little bit. But $40,644,000 is what we are going to be collecting and distributing to McLean County. The motor fuel tax is for the month of April, $147,000, $136,000 on the renewal. Township, $125,000. Renewal was $115,000. It's interesting how the renewal fund is almost giving us as much as the normal motor fuel tax that we get from county and township. Total $1.2 million on county motor fuel and a little over $1 million on township. Any questions? The next report is my investment report, which is now 3 pages long because we are continuing to invest in a lot of treasuries. You know, a year ago, this report had most of the rates were barely over 1%. And so we're trying to take advantage of the treasuries and doing a little CD investment still, and then leaving funds in the money markets. And at this point in time, last week we were getting on treasury, we were getting almost 5%. So anyway, that's that. The Illinois Funds Money Market, which is where we have most of our funds parked, that rate is 4.92%. The interest on that account there on page 1, 30,402,000. The interest on that last month was 120,000, just in 1 month. So, the next report is the Blue Cross Blue Shield report. And you can see that our expenses here in 2023, 2,403,000. We are above 2022 by 230,000. Our stop loss coverage is continuing to provide us with benefits. During the month of April, we had a stop loss credit in column 8 there of 39,000. So, and then we continue to get our RX credits. And there's some other credits there coming through. But the stop loss is really one that got to kind of watch throughout the year. That's how we're able to maintain a self-insurance plan, is having that stop loss in place. So. The next report is the nursing home report. And again, this is only through the month of March. I run a month behind because of that's how it's reported to me. The primary sources of revenue would be the Medicaid, the private pay, and the Medicare. You can see for the month of March how those came in. 830,000, significantly higher than both January and February. The year-to-date revenue, 2,704,127. Year-to-date expenses, 2,759,126. Keep in mind that the month of March included 3 payrolls, and that is significant because, you know, normally we're working off of 2 payrolls per month. So even for the county, that's quite a hit in 1 month. So at this point in time, the revenue is under the expenses by $54,999. The receivable at the end of March was $4,457,000. Cash at the end of March was negative $1,146,962. Again, that third payroll is going to pull that down. And then the fund equity at the end of March was $542,205. Keep in mind that we have that $2.8 million reserve that was set aside at the end of December. So the next report, moving on into the property tax, once a year after extension is done and we bill, I create this document and bring it to you. It's part of the press release that we issue out of our office, but it's where do your property taxes go? It just summarizes the full amount that was extended, $395,790,000. Summarizes where it goes by category. We start with McLean County at the top, and then you can go on down. You can see each category that we have outlined. School districts, $243 million. They received $243 million of the $395 million, almost 61.4% of it. One district in particular, Unit 5, gets $136,000. So, you know, almost 1/3 of what we collect and distribute is for one. I'm sorry, yes. 136 million, I'm so sorry. And, but anyway, almost 1/3 of what we collect and distribute is for one school district. And then you can see the rate setting EAV by property type over there. So, and then the final report is where we just take a final look at McLean County government. And if I were to pull this out even further, it would just look like a straight line. And this is 15 years worth of data, and you can say that McLean County government's tax rate has been hovering around 91 cents for most of those years. That's 91 cents per $100 of equalized assessed taxable equalized assessed value. Okay. You can see the extension, 40.631 million. The taxable rate-setting EAV, 4.462 billion. Something really interested in happened in 2022, and Tim had been talking about this. We knew this was coming. That rate-setting EAV, normally it only goes up by 1, 2, 3%. Last year it went up by 6.65% from McLean County government. So, pretty significant. Any questions?
I think we have a question from the Chair of Health Committee, Susan Schaefer, and I will allow her to come forward and address us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Chair of Health Committee, we have oversight of the nursing home. And every month for years now, Ms. McNeil has been giving Finance Committee a report on the nursing home. Now, and has expressed concerns about the nursing home, yet has not come to the Health Committee to express those concerns about the finances there. And we've had ups and downs with the nursing home. I'm not going to deny that. We've had the Blue Ribbon Panel that has recommended items to be done to improve the situation at the nursing home. So I have talked with Chair Metzger, I've talked with Chairman McIntyre, I've talked with administration, and I would like to ask Ms. McNeil to forego reporting on the nursing home to Finance Committee and then attend the Health Committee meeting so that you can express your concerns to the Health Committee. And I would like to ask you to do that because we do get the report. Ms. Morlock will send us the report that you give us, but your narrative isn't there when we get that. And so I think that it would be more beneficial to the Health Committee to understand your concerns when you have concerns about the nursing home in your job responsibility. That's my first thing. So that's my request from Ms. McNeil. I don't know how the other committee members feel about this, but.
I do not have objections to that because we don't have the ability to make those, maybe make necessary changes because we are not the oversight committee. So I think we still have to have some concerns if there is an issue, but a monthly report, I'm not sure coming directly to us is maybe the most appropriate place would be the oversight committee, not the finance. So, and then as those issues get raised, then you would bring them to finance? Is that what you are seeing moving forward, Chair Schaefer?
Correct. Just like any other issue that we have, any other committee that, and property is a good example, is that somebody has an issue with a building and wants something done, you refer it to property committee, when it comes to your committee. So yes, if it was something that we felt that at Health Committee needed to then be referred to finance, then yes, we would refer it to finance. And so that's the process. I mean, and even for Chair Member Erickson to request Mr. Wiley to come here and do a deep dive into.
Actually, the whole committee did that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the whole committee did that. The whole committee. Thank you. That's what happened.
You were the one. I watched that. I'm not going to argue with you, Chuck, but I watched the
Point of
committee.
order.
And you did ask for Mr. Wyatt, and they agreed to it, but you wanted to do a deep dive, and you were going to ask Ms. McNeil for 10 years of history. And so that is a function of what the Oversight Committee should be doing. If you had an issue with that or wanted that, you should actually go to the Oversight Committee and ask them to do that for you.
When I have my opportunity to speak, I respectfully disagree.
So anyway, that is what I would like to.
Member Erickson, you will, as soon as the chair of Health Committee is finished, I will certainly give you an opportunity.
So I just want to make sure we have the process correct so that the Health Committee has the information they need to make decisions for the nursing home, as they are the Oversight Committee.
So, and please forgive me, because we may have, I'm on that committee with you, and so I apologize. When that request for an emergency funding availability, not that it's going to be used, as we're aware, when that came to this committee, we approved it. Did we look at that at the Health Committee?
I had no idea.
So, probably that might have been something we should have maybe thought through a little bit more, I guess, because I just went ahead and, as a chair here, thought that that was an appropriate decision, not saying it wasn't appropriate, but we may not have been the appropriate, you're thinking that we are not the appropriate committee to make those recommendations. You would make the recommendation, would come here, and then we would approve it, is what you are seeing. Is that correct?
That's how I think some of these processes, that, the Oversight Committee, no matter what it is, should then refer to whatever committee then it needs to address that particular issue.
Okay.
And
very good.
it's more of a process type thing on that.
Anything else?
No, that's pretty much it. I just wanted,
You may have questions if Member Erickson or another member here, so you're welcome to stay seated here for a time, and then we'll excuse you once that discussion is complete. Member Erickson.
Thank you. For as long as I've been on the Finance Committee, this has been occurring.
pardon?
I just said, for as long as I've been on the Finance Committee, Ms. McNeil has been reporting to us about the nursing home. And it's a report. We've never assumed because we had the report, we had any authority to do anything. I don't think that's a fair assessment. I think we have the right to receive the report. I think she has the right to comment on the report because we are actually called the Finance Committee. And we do probably have some overlapping jurisdiction on this, although I don't have the county board rules in front of me, so I don't know exactly what they say. But I do not think that Ms. McNeil should be advised that she can't come and address this to the Finance Committee. It is a finance issue as well as an issue for the nursing home or the Health Committee. It's an issue for both. For example, a lot of times when something comes to justice, and this is the way it always works, we're going to go ahead and approve extra money for this. Okay, that's great. What does Justice Committee do? Nothing. That goes to Finance. So I don't know why this stuff wouldn't be coming to Finance at all. I mean, Finance is, if someone can point out to me in the rule why this wouldn't be coming to Finance and why we would be changing years and years and years of the way we've been doing things, I would like to understand that. I've never heard anybody say that was a violation of the rules before. But if Ms. McNeil is required to go to the Health Committee, that's certainly her decision to make. if you ask her to go, but I don't know why we would not be getting the same reports and getting the same information. I
Are
just don't understand why we wouldn't
Ms.
be.
Schaefer, are you asking that we not receive the report, or you're just asking her to attend the health committee and provide the same information she has provided to us? Please clarify.
In a way, I'm asking that she does not give the report here, because why is she only reporting on the nursing home? Why is she not reporting on JDC, which I know was requested years ago and was only done like a couple of times? And why is she not reporting on other things? Why is it only the nursing home? So everything that we do comes back to finance in the end. I mean, it doesn't make any difference what committee or what topic it is. It comes back to finance in the end because of the budget. And finance has oversight on the budget. But, so that's kind of where I'm at on this. I kind of think that there's a process here that is being lost somehow.
I'm a little, because of our recent decision, I think that we may have, the decision to provide an emergency fund, potentially an emergency fund, should have probably gone to Health Committee and then come here, as opposed to us not communicating that directly to, and I'm to blame a little bit because I didn't share that in the Health Committee afterwards, so.
That really isn't the driver of my comments. This has gone on for years. And like I said, there's no context when we received this report. And then I guess
do know in the
really the
past-
driver of my comments here is more of this committee asking Mr. Wiley to come and wanting to do a deep dive into the finances of the nursing home when another committee has the oversight of that.
Now, I think you are well aware that prior to Mr. Wiley, these numbers didn't always match. And I always brought that up in Health Committee to try to figure out where the mismatch was on those. But they have been the same, and I think it was primarily, there was not communication with Ms. McNeil on those numbers that the Health Committee was getting. And so there was some concern there. So in order to proceed, I would like to, you've made a request to Ms. McNeil. I think if you could have a conversation with her privately to make arrangements to get what you need. I'm getting the impression from our committee that continuing to receive this is not unwarranted, and that we would like to continue to receive the report.
May I ask why, both Ms. McNeil and to you, why you're only looking at the nursing home and not any other department area?
Because I am unaware that there was a difference between the nursing home. There is no difference between the nursing home and the JDC or another area. If there are other areas, maybe we need to be looking at those also. I'm not sure. Member Erickson.
I don't know the answer to that question. I just know that that's the way it's always been done. I can't remember a time that it's never not been done that way. And so, if you want to suggest that we should be getting more information, I'm more than happy to get more information about other things. But I do know, it's not improper of me, since I sit on the Finance Committee and since I get committee reports about the nursing home, to ask questions about it. In fact, that's perfectly proper. If I'm going to be getting information, I certainly have the right to ask questions about it. I almost feel like there's like someone's upset with me because I had the audacity to even ask questions. And I don't think that's fair to this committee. I mean, we have a right to ask questions as well. I don't care personally, my own perspective, can't speak for anybody else, if Ms. McNeil is required or whatever we can do. Maybe required's too strong of a word, but Ms. McNeil is requested, okay, to go and address the same thing she addresses to finance, to address it to the health committee. But it's almost like, I don't like the fact that Chuck Erickson was asking questions and so forth. So from now on, he gets to ask no more questions. We're taking it all over.
I'm not sure that,
Well, it may not be that way, but it's kind of ironic that's the way it happened. I mean, why would we not have the right to ask questions about these same things? That's what I don't get.
It is not about you asking a question. The reason that this has been always done this way is because the nursing home used to be under the finance committee. And I'm sure Ms. McNeil back then just continued doing what she's been doing all this time. Nothing's really changed. That is, yeah, we've always done it this way. Is that really the way we should be doing it? And that's one of the things I'm questioning here.
I just don't see any harm in what we're doing. I don't see how it's harming anything.
Member Friedrich.
Susan, is this the Health Committee's request?
Yes, because I've talked with Member Metzger about this, and I haven't talked with everybody on the Health Committee, but I know that in the past, we have had those issues where numbers don't match, we don't understand, things like that, and yet Ms. McNeil will report on things that are her concerns about the nursing home, and it's not just whatever just happened, because I wasn't even aware of that. It's been in the past. So we've had her, I think there were been a couple of times that you did come to Health Committee when it was different administrators many years ago kind of thing, trying for the Health Committee to understand her concerns and her numbers and things like that. So that's why when we see the report, that you have here that has these numbers, and we have our other reports, and we're trying to reconcile what those concerns are versus what we're seeing, we need the information so that we can say where we are. So we really know where we are based on the treasurer's reports and based on the nursing home reports.
So, Ms. McNeil.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. First of all, yes, the nursing home reported to the Finance Committee. And I've been doing my job since 2003, and this is the very first time I have been, well, this approach has been used. I have never gone to Health Committee. I've never been asked to go to Health Committee. I have always reported to Finance Committee because that's what treasurers do. They report to Finance Committee. Years ago, when the nursing home started experiencing some loss, I brought it to the attention of the county administrator. And I'm not talking about hundreds of thousands. We were talking about millions of dollars. Brought it to the attention of the county administrator. I had said that I am going to I'm going to create a report, and I'm going to take it to finance, because that's the committee that I report to, and that's the committee that the nursing home reports to, okay? At some point in time, the nursing home got shifted to a different committee, to your committee for reporting, okay? At that time, I asked the county administrator, should I go to that committee? And I was told no. I'm more than happy to attend the health committee. I'm more than happy to present the same report to the health committee. But I believe that it's important for the finance committee to also receive that report. And the reason why I say that is because my report is directly off the general ledger. It is directly off the general ledger. The general ledger is the audit, is what's audited. And those numbers off the general ledger are what are put in our comprehensive annual financial report. So I would hesitate to not present something like this to the finance committee. And I guess, you know, at the end of the day, aren't we all just trying to do what's best for McLean County government? Isn't that what we're all trying to do? So I'm more than welcome, I'm more than happy to come to the health committee and talk about the same numbers off of the county's general ledger. I'm not gonna, I don't think that I'm going to refrain from presenting the same report to finance that I've presented for years, because I believe that it's extremely important. In regards to the variances between the two reports, sometimes timing has a lot to do with it. In the last 14 years, I can't even count how many how many nursing home administrators we've had. In the last 14 years, you've had the same treasurer. And I've worked with that general ledger since 1999. So it is possible that I'm going to be giving a report that may not match exactly what the nursing home administrator is reporting, but we may have different focuses. And timing might have something to do with that too, because I'm giving a report today based off of March, because that's what's been reported to me. I can't report anything for the month of April because that's not been reported to me. Even the expenses that have been paid through accounts payable during the month of April, I'm not going to report that. I'm not going to put that on my report yet because I don't have the revenue numbers in from the nursing home. So I don't believe the numbers have ever been significantly different. I'm not aware of that. It might just be timing and it might be focus. So.
I would, as the chair of the finance, I will, would like to ask that you continue to provide us with this report. And I think our chair of the health committee, Ms. Schaefer, would like that same report to her committee. And they then, at the health committee, can maybe help provide us direction if we need any, or if we have concerns, we will express those. And also, I will be more cognizant to make sure that the health committee is aware of our concerns that we would have related to the nursing home. Does that seem like a reasonable compromise?
Yes, thank you. But I still would like to know why it's only the nursing home. Why?
I will address that with administration and with the chairman to see if there are other areas that maybe we should be aware of and we are not. And I will address that with them and this committee next month. We may, I'll let you, we'll have a discussion on that, where we're at, whether there is more that we need to be, have oversight over, or an understanding, not oversight, but an understanding of, because we don't have oversight over the health commit, or the nursing home, but we do have and we need to have an understanding as to the financial aspects of that organization and maybe others, but I'm unaware, and I will take this offline and have a discussion and report next month.
Thank you.
All right. Yes,
Thank you.
Mr. Erickson.
Yes, I just want to add something briefly, and I know I'm probably beating a dead horse, but it's just me wanting to be correct for the record. The minutes, which we just approved from last month's meeting, state that Mr. Erickson requested the nursing home director attend a meeting to provide more information to the committee about efforts at the nursing home. There's no information in the record that any committee member objected to that. And so it was I don't have the authority, I don't believe, on my own to request anybody to speak. I think the committee requests somebody to speak, okay? So, I just want to correct that it wasn't Mr. Erickson that requested the nursing home director to come here, it was the committee. And that's the way it occurred. It wasn't just me, but I do appreciate getting these reports, and I would like to continue to receive them, so thank you.
Any other, Ms. McNeil?
I just want to add that in our financial statements, the nursing home is a proprietary fund, okay? It is a business-like operation. That's what a proprietary fund it is. It is a fund in which you separate out a function of your government that is supposed to be operating like a business. That's been the history of McLean County. So going forward, that might change because of the financials. We're going through audit right now. But I just want to point out why it is set aside. If it always has been set aside, if you look at our CAFR, you will see that there is a specific section for the nursing home because it is a proprietary fund in governmental accounting.
Thank you. All in favor of accepting and putting on file the county treasurer's monthly financial report, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Very good, the motion passes. Any other information, anything else? Obviously, you're going through audit, and you are sent out the tax bills. And I want to say thank you for that. They were very timely, so I do know that. Anything else?
No, thank you.
All right. We're going to move on now to, thank you, Ms. McNeil.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to 4C, and I'm going to I think, I should be able to combine those next two, A and B, am I not correct? I'm going to combine 4C, 1A, and B, and that is request approval of the ordinance of McLean County setting the fees to be charged by McLean County clerk, and B, request approval of an ordinance of McLean County Board setting the fees to be charged by the McLean County clerk recording. So that's on the recording side. May I have a motion for that? May I have a motion? Motion by Member Erickson, a second by Vice Chair Lehman. And this is, we passed it at the county board, but the ordinance needs to be changed in the code, I believe. If that is not correct, please correct me, Ms. Taylor. But this is what we are approving, is getting the code changed. So the approval has already been made. We just have the code that needs to be updated. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Ms. Michael is here this evening. We have monthly reports. I don't think there's anything, I didn't notice anything unusual or different, other than an increase, continued increase in numbers on the recording side. But other than that, do you want to add anything, Mr. Bonds or Ms. Michael? If you have any questions for either, or for her department? Seeing none, we'll move on to 4D, and that's Timothy Jorzik. He is the Supervisor of Assessments, and he doesn't have anything to present, or doesn't have any action items. He did include some things in our packet, which I found interesting, and felt that it was important for him maybe to give us a Cliff Note version of our assessment on farmland, which, as Ms. McNeil just showed us, is 11% of our EAV, I believe, if I was not mistaken. Yeah, we have the property type, we have 11% of the county property type is farm ground. So I was wondering if you could give us a Cliff Note version so we have a better understanding as a finance committee of how you did a really nice job with our residential training that was taking place. And I understand that the Farm Bureau does a really good job with the landowners in McLean County of trying to keep them understanding of how this property tax or how our farmland is assessed and property taxes are assessed. But I thought it was important our committee understand that. So if you could give us a Cliff Note, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Happy to do so. So you will see in the packet the memo that I received from the Illinois Department of Revenue outlining the farmland values for assessment year 2024. Farmland value is one area where my office does not have much of a responsibility at all other than administration of the values that are presented to us. So basically, the Department of Revenue tells us what the values are going to be, and we apply them. These values are actually determined several years in advance. So the values you're looking at that we are considering here are values that won't go into effect until taxes payable in 2025. That's how far in advance they're looking at these things. The way the value is established, is through what's known as an income capitalization approach. So with single-family homes, we look at, and commercial properties and things like that, we look at sales mostly and kind of see where homes are in the market, and that's how we determine our assessed value. Agricultural land is done differently. It's done based on its income productivity. So if you look on, I believe it is the second page here, it's this chart, you can see.
Page 29.
Yes. Based on the productivity index of each class of property, that's what the value is determined at. So what we do is we take those, you can see for each productivity type, they have an estimate of the gross income per acre that they've estimated for each productivity index. The next column are the non-land production costs. So they take those costs out, those input costs out, and then you're left with the net land return or the net income. That net income is then capitalized. So what we do is we take that number down there at the bottom where it says the 5-year capitalization rate. That rate is divided into the net land return, and that gives you your agricultural value. So if you go to number 82, the very first productivity index there, you see we have a net land return of $118.96 per acre. If you divide that by 5.14%, that will give you the agricultural economic value of $2,314 an acre. We take 1/3 of that, like we do with any other property. We take 1/3 of the market value, and that's our assessed value for that property. So you see there, we divide that by 3, and you get $771.47. Now, this is where there's another little wrinkle. The legislature decided many years ago that farmland values, their assessments were going up too fast at an unsustainable rate. So they've actually put a governor on, an escalator clause, on the farmland value to keep it from increasing at a rate that exceeds what's considered reasonable. The way they do that is they cap it at the median productivity index, whatever that increase is. All other increases are limited to that. So that final column there is what the actual assessed values are. So if you look at productivity index 82, the equalized assessed value under the code should be $771.47. But because of that escalator, the EAV is $327.50. That increase is steady every year. Because what happens when you put a cap on any type of value increase, what happens is if the values are growing at this rate, you're only increasing at this much. So you're going to be continually playing catch up to that number. What's interesting this year, for the first time in several years, that agricultural economic value is actually lower this year than it was in the prior year. But you're still seeing increases that are capped out because we're still playing catch up to get to that value. So that's how the ag land value is determined. So if we get farm landowners asking questions, why does my farm value keep going up every year? It's because we're still playing catch up to get to the agricultural economic value.
Any questions related to that?
If you have any questions and want to talk about it, I've got some resources downstairs. I don't know if any of you have ever seen this guide. This is a wonderful book that goes through every year. They issue from the Illinois Society of Professional Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers. It goes into all of the details in terms of the finances of farmland in Illinois. It's a wonderful, wonderful resource. If you want to come downstairs and take a look at it, please feel free. I'm happy to walk you through some of the details. But it goes into the economic factors in farmland specific, and it's broken down by area. So there's a whole section on our area here in McLean County. We just crossed we had our first farmland sale of over $20,000 per acre here in McLean County back in, I'd say it was October of last year. So farm sales prices are still on farmland, they continue to increase. And this has a really good rundown of how all those work.
However, the value, that's not included in this.
No.
So the fact that something's sold for $20,000 an acre is not included in these calculations.
Correct. But this also has income because what they sell for, the prices that the farmland sells for, turns around and that impacts the capitalization rate. It impacts the cash rents that people are charging. So there are downstream effects from those factors. And the sale price is one of the first leading indicators what those rates are going to be.
Well, thank you for your time. No questions? Again, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
And appreciate you being here tonight. All right, we're move on. It doesn't look like Ms. Anderson is here this evening. County Auditors 4E, no action items, no information, so we'll go to 4F. And that is 4F 1A, and that is request approval of the entrepreneurship funding through the revolving loan program, revolving loan fund and commercial lease programs that were presented to us last month by Mr. Hoban with the EDC. And may I have a motion to put that on the floor? We have a motion by Member Lehman and a second by Member Friedrich. Does anybody have any questions? I think this document has not changed. We were given a pretty, I felt a comprehensive understanding as to what the plans were to initiate the use or the being able to make this monies available. And so if we don't have any questions, we have a question. Member Erickson.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we last month agreed that this would be the outline of what the plan would be. And I've sat on many finance committee meetings where we've come up with a plan and yet the money still always is there after a couple years, so, as much as I like to see you, Mr. Hoban, I would not like to see you again on this particular issue. Okay, I mean, what are we gonna do to make sure we market this, to get this done, okay? Because let's get it out of here. I mean, maybe you addressed that last month, I don't recall, but yeah, I mean, can you tell us what's gonna happen?
I
mean,
think the big difference is that it says grant now, and before it was always loans, and now that it is a grant, getting it in front, first of all, it'll go in front of all of the realtors in the community, any landlords, so they can use that to promote their properties. And the fact that it is a grant and it is not a loan that they have to pay back, I think it'll go much faster than having strings attached to it like we did in the past.
Whatever we can do to advertise the living daylights out of this thing, I would be supportive of, because I really don't want to see it anymore. I mean, let's get rid of it. It's not doing anybody good, just sitting there. It needs to be out there doing people some good. So, whatever you think you need to do, let us know, and let's do it, and let's get it done.
Understood.
It's funny you mentioned that because I had, behind this, I just had communication. So I think that is, you indicated to us last month how you were going to communicate that, to have it out there so it is understood and available to people. And hopefully, as Member Erickson said, people utilize it and we build, help build some entrepreneurial businesses in our community. And I liked last month how it was not just for Bloomington Normal, it's for all of McLean County. So I appreciate that.
Definitely.
Any other questions? Right, seeing no additional questions, all in favor of 4F1A, say aye. Opposed? The motion passes. It is good, Mr. Erickson. We're going to move on to 4F1B, and that's request approval of the abatement ordinance abating the 2022 taxes on property purchased by Brandt Industries, and that is found in our packet on pages 34 through 36. And may I have a motion to put that on the, we have a motion by Member Friedrich and a second by Member Rogel. Very good. And I'm going to let Ms. Taylor speak on this one.
As you can see in your packet, Brandt Industries USA LTD and Brandt Properties USA LTD have met all of the satisfactory proof that they needed to provide to the EDC. And so below is the language that outlines their abatement, and I recommend approval of this action item.
Questions? I do have one question. Was that a 5-year abatement?
7.
7. Okay, thank you very much. And we are on year 4? Hang on.
Yeah,
Okay, very
till
good.
2027.
All right, thank you. I couldn't remember, so thank you very much. No other questions. We're going to head and vote on this, and it'll obviously go to the board also. And that for F1B, and that's the abatement for Brandt Industry. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to 4F1C, and that's a resolution approving, a request approval for the resolution establishing the budget policy for the fiscal year 2024. Found on pages 34 through 36, very similar to what we've had in the past. A few minor tweaks, but and I'm not sure if we can't go ahead and add for F1D, and that is the calendar for the fiscal year. So for those two, F1C and 1D, may I have a motion? Have a motion by Vice Chair Lehman and a second by Member Friedrich. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Member Erickson.
I was looking at this and maybe I missed it, but there's nothing changed, is there?
There is minor language change in the section with ARPA to move it from future tense to current tense, because in the past, we had not received the funding yet, now we have. That's on page 39. And of course, we updated the dates.
It's on page 39.
Yes, 39, 2.5. The past tense, it was changed to past tense versus present tense.
Oh, okay. Well, I just didn't have anything like in red line or anything showing me that it had been changed, so I just assumed it was the same thing as last year.
Same intent, has not changed the content, it just changed more or less Scrivener's errors in updating the dates and changing things to reflect past tense.
Well, that's the way I look at it. I'm like, where's the red line change at? I'm not seeing a red line change. There's nothing different here. I mean, so that was my question.
Substantively, there's no change.
All right, thank you.
Additional questions? All right, all in favor of 4F, 1C, and D approval, say aye. Opposed? That motion passes for those two items. We do have, I'm going to, instead of following the order, to go to 4F2, I would prefer to go to 5, which would be a conversation or a presentation by Tim Wiley, our nursing home administrator. And I would like to invite him to come forward, and then we will be having a closed session. And we probably think it's best that we have him speak before we go into closed session.
Welcome.
And Mr. Wiley, welcome.
Thank you. As comfortable as these chairs are, the chairs in the gallery are literally numbing. I appreciate the opportunity to address some of your concerns. These were concerns that were brought to my attention when I became a part of the organization, and I've kept the Health Committee apprised of what we're doing. As far as a deep dive, that is my modus operandi. I've been in change management my whole career, and I started the deep dive the November 1st, 2021, when I started at McLean County Nursing Home and discovered some of these things that were troubling to me. Objective for 2022, my first full year, was to prove the viability of McLean County Nursing Home and establish it as the provider of choice and ultimately employer of choice. I feel like we've accomplished some of those things. I knew that there were issues with the aging, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to address that the way I would like to the first year. So here we are in 2023. I've established some resources, some assistance in working through the weeds of the aging at a level of understanding that exceeds mine. I'm able to look at it and see there's a problem, but I've been afforded the resources through the county to bring on some consultants who will help us with this. By the way, one of my objectives is for the county to establish what would be comparable to a corporate resource framework for the home. I was in long-term care at the corporate level, and when you have a home with corporate resources available, you have experts in nursing, experts in reimbursement, experts in finance, experts in operations, and we can recreate that through consultants, and I'm in the process of doing that even when it comes to receivables. So in March, when we saw the issues with some of the receivables, I started putting some processes in place for AR and aging. We do have a consulting company that will be assisting us with that, but with just what we've put in place in-house, in the month of March, we collected aging balances up to $153,248.
Could I get that report, or do you have it? Is that in our report already? We already have those numbers?
No, this is just to give you indication of what we're accomplishing. In the month of April,
Okay,
we
but could I get
collected,
it at some point?
yes, my own spreadsheets and tracking logs to monitor our progress.
Yeah, I can't speak for the other committee members, but I'd like to see them. So,
I'll do what I'm told. I just wanted to bring to your attention, in the month of April in-house, with new processes put in place, we collected $351,767 on old debt. So in literally 7 weeks, we collected a little over $500,000 on aging balances. That had not been the practice prior. I have additional reports that I ran for me by way of comparison, just looking at AR aging reports, and I'm sure you have extensive experience working with AR aging. It is its own animal because it's a moving target. The numbers are constantly changing, so I created a fixed point in time based on February 28th's aging and cash receipts through 3/1. Then I reassessed those numbers with aging through 2/28 with cash through 4/11, and the aging was reduced by 1.1 million. That's just with in-house work. So we're making significant progress there. A lot of analytics have taken place on my part. I know that there was some concern that the committee wanted to hear, what have we put in place? And so I've shared those things with you. Once this collection company actually begins their activity, we're going to see additional assistance with aging that's 7 or 8 months and older. In-house, we'll be addressing what is aging back to 7 or 8 months. I believe I was also asked to share with the committee how we arrived at the number of $2.8 million to allow for bad debt. Is that correct? One of my driving philosophies in life actually came from George Santayana. I'm sure you're familiar with his philosophical work, not to be confused with Carlos Santana. But George Santayana is the one that said, those who cannot learn from the past are condemned to repeat it. And I want to leave McLean County Nursing Home in a place where we're not condemned to repeat the past that got us to where we are in our aging. So as I assessed the aging and worked together with my consulting accountant, we saw that 2.8 million in aging was greater than 12 months old. Of the 2.8 million that was greater than of the 2.8 million that was greater than 12 months old, over 2 million of that 2.8 million was related directly or indirectly with Medicaid. When it comes to receivables, your government payer sources, which is Medicare, federal, Medicaid, state, and your other commercial payers, which are insurance companies, anything outside 12 months is pretty much unretrievable unless the facility has already billed and they're just working through some denials and things of that nature. So we know that right off the bat, there's a strong possibility that anything Medicaid related, 12 months old or older, is gone. The other payers that are related to Medicaid are the resident's contribution, which we call patient liability. The state of Illinois refers to it as resident credit. That is what the Medicaid beneficiary contributes from his or her own income. The fact that they are on Medicaid and we have not collected from them in over a year, that money more than likely is bad debt, is non-collectible. And the other piece would be people who were Medicaid pending. And again, the fact that those people were applying for Medicaid and their balances are equal to or greater than 12 months, that money's non-collectible. In fairness to the county, if throughout time the county was asking administrators, what are we doing about, incrementally I could say that the 3.5 million in aging, what are we doing about the 3.8 as it grows? What are we doing about the $4.2 million in agency? If we administrators were reporting to the county, we'll go get it, all we're doing is saying the emperor is wearing some really nice new clothes as he's walking down the street. The $2.8 million in aging that we are bringing to the attention of the county as more than likely non-collectible and needs to be allowed for is giving you the information that is accurate, that perhaps you were or weren't given prior because maybe there wasn't a more comprehensive understanding of collections and aging in the past. I'm not saying that this money is 100% non-collectible because interestingly enough, of the 2.6 million that was 12 months or older, we managed to collect 5,000 of it in the month of April. But that's how we arrived at that number. And to leave it there is actually just going to muddy the waters. And I believe the only bullet point that I haven't addressed was a question of any projection for increased revenue. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay,
There was a question
so-
about revenue.
Okay, I'm just verifying because I don't want to give you information you're not interested in. So relative to projections for increasing revenue, in 2021, based on the numbers that I was able to retrieve, I'm assuming they're consistent with what the treasurer would have. I took into account only the primary sources of revenue because those are the only sources that I can control at all. I can control them to a certain extent with census development and payer mix. So looking only at revenue from Medicare, Medicaid, and private pay, which also includes Veterans Administration. In 2021, the total revenue from those payer sources was $5.7 million. In 2022, it was $8.2 million. So we saw an increase in revenue in 1 year's time of $2.5 million. I'm hoping that that's acceptable. I did a 5-year average of the revenue from those three sources. The 5-year average, 2018 to 2021, was $6.3 million. Our revenue in 2022 exceeded that by $1.8 million. So our revenue in just 1 year exceeded the 5-year average by $1.8 million and exceeded the year before by $2.5 million. So we're going in the right direction. For what it's worth, today our census is 108. And our agency utilization went from 57% of our nursing staffs being filled by agency employee or agency workers to we're now at 17%. So we're trending in the right direction. We have processes in place. Am I projecting growth? Yes. I don't know that the trajectory of the first year is actually sustainable because For instance, right now, we're at a position where for all intents and purposes, we're bedlocked. We're running out of places to put people, which is a tremendous problem to have. The facility is licensed for 148 beds, but looking at market share, looking at staff feasibility, looking at market expectations for private rooms, we've created some additional private rooms. We've taken some beds out of service. I've created for the health committee, for the county, what I refer to as an operational maximum of around 125. And optimal operation is typically at about 85 to 90% of your maximum. You have to leave room for incompatible residents, for isolation cases, for the ability to move some people around if you're in a pinch. So if everything goes as planned, tomorrow we'll be at 110 in our census, and we are now dealing with the problems. I remember telling county administration when I was hired, the first year is going to be tough. I'm hoping that the second year is fun, and we're starting to deal with things that are fun. Like, how in the world are we going to take more people? Where are we going to put them? How are we going to provide excellent service? So I believe we're going in the right direction relative to cash on hand, which I think was the issue that brought this whole discussion to the surface, which is a legitimate concern, obviously. I did some research into 2022. So our monthly deposits from the facility in 2022 averaged $630,000. In March, our deposits were right at $800,000, and for April, they were $903,000. Those types of advancements in our processes, I believe will begin chipping away at the cash on hand issue.
We have a question from our administrator, Ms. Taylor.
Mr. Wiley, thank you for that report. As you heard, our treasurer, McNeil, mentioned that the nursing home is an enterprise fund, or as she called it, a proprietary fund. And you referred to the home in a corporate model. Can you share with us, from your experience in a corporate model, how much allowance for bad debt is typically put into a budget for a corporate nursing home?
One of the other things that I dug into for my own understanding of what was going on, forgive me, I have the gift of verbosity. I'll try to keep this brief. But the backstory is important to me. So I'm looking at this saying, how in the world did we get here? And I'm seeing 10 years of digression. So I look back 5 years, and in 2018, for doubtful accounts, we budgeted $0 and expensed $99,865. In 2019, we budgeted $0 for doubtful accounts and expensed $235,862. In 2020, we budgeted $37,251, which that's an interesting number, and expensed that amount. 2021, we budgeted $0 for doubtful accounts, expensed $10,000, and in 2022, we budgeted $0 for doubtful accounts and expensed $2.8 million. My experience has been, even when a facility is doing well, and I'll admit, for 2023, I did not budget for doubtful accounts. I was focused on so many other things that slipped between my fingers, and I apologize to the county for that. I was guilty. But with solid operations, I would budget between $100,000 and $150,000 every single year for bad debt, for doubtful accounts. And they could be for a number of reasons. It could be because of a Medicare audit and Medicare's taken some money back. It could be a Medicaid audit they take some money back. It could be that we have someone who transitioned from private pay into Medicaid pending and became Medicaid, but went through some catastrophic event and there was hardship. And so with approval from whomever it is in the county that would approve it, we write that off as charitable care for $35,000 or whatever the case may be. But bad debt has to be budgeted for, it has to be accounted for. It is a part of running even a viable, fiscally responsible business. It just happens. And if you don't budget it for it and act on it every year, you end up in 2023 with what appears to be $4.4 million in aging, when in reality, it should be significantly less than that. That's left on the books.
Additional questions? Member Friedrich.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wiley, for what you're doing for the nursing home. I hear a lot of positive things. I know as far as being on the finance committee, numbers get thrown around, and I'm certainly not an accountant, so you did an excellent job of explaining yourself, and I have a lot of confidence in you turn this thing around and questions will be answered. My only question is, why didn't you come here sooner? So, because it really does clarify, in my opinion, for me.
Member Erickson.
Thank you. To be clear, no one on this committee that I know of, nor myself, has ever made any suggestion whatsoever that the problem at the nursing home is Mr. Wiley. Just to be clear, okay? So I want to make sure that is said. But how this process started was that we have been consistently seeing negative numbers coming out of the nursing home. And some of us voted for a blue ribbon panel and their suggestions to make a change. And yet we're still seeing negative numbers coming out of the nursing home. And so the question only became, and I was worried this was going to become political gotcha, and I do think it has become political gotcha, but it was more intended to be a collaboration. Will somebody explain to me when we're going to turn the final corner? When are we going to get there? The only indication I have had so far was that the Titanic, on March 8th, 2023, the Titanic was turning, okay? And we got that from the county administrator. And so the question became, all right, can we hone that down a little bit more, okay? I mean, are we saying it's going to turn and probably by 2037 it'll be fully around? Or are we saying it's going to be fully around by 2025, okay? And you're going to say to me, well, we can't really tell you that. Well, I get that a little bit. And please understand, I understand bad debt. I'm a practicing attorney in this town, and sometimes you bill people, and sometimes they don't pay you. And sometimes you know they're not going to pay you. And sometimes you know if you try to collect it from them, they're still not going to pay you, okay? So you try to get as much as you can up front. So everybody who runs a business budgets for bad debt. I mean, I think that's just a prudent course of running a business. You know that there will be some bills that you will not collect. But I guess my question is getting more along the lines of, I really want to get some, and I want to be told I'm asking the wrong question, because I feel like, well, I've been watching this happen for 10 years. Couldn't this be more of a collaboration as to when are we going to finally get that thing turned, okay? Well, Chuck, you got to factor this in, and you've got to factor that in, and you've got to factor this in, and then if you take this, and you take that, and you take this, and you take that, and this over here, and that over there, and this over there, and this over there, we really can't tell you. Well, I've been hearing that for 10 years. Okay, that's the way I feel. I mean, if someone would like to sit down with me, such as the chairman or the county administrator, would like to explain to me when this is being, what is the plan to get this turned, I'd be more than happy to have that conversation. Okay, but I've not been given the opportunity to have that conversation. I would say that nobody on this committee, including myself, has ever proposed, at least at this committee, what the next step is. I don't know. This is fact-finding. We do know this is fact-finding, right? We do know that, right? I mean, we're trying to find out what the facts are about what the money is. And I just find it, I hope you're speaking with Ms. McNeil on those things. I mean, it's almost like I should say to Ms. McNeil, I know this sounds kind of like I'm being petty about the whole issue, but, well, Ms. McNeil, if you're going to go to the Health Committee, you have the report, but don't give it to anybody. You get to read from it, but don't tell it to anybody. So I really would like to see your report. I really would like to see your numbers. I think that as a member of the Finance Committee, I think we're entitled to that. But what I don't think you should interpret this as is this is an indictment of you or anything you're doing. We know you were stuck with a difficult situation. Okay, we know you're doing your best to turn it around, okay? And no one is saying that, okay? And no one has even suggested that. It's just that I just want to get a clean answer as to, okay, if the answer is we can never turn it around, we're always going to have to accept some loss out there, then we ought to just say that. If the answer is we can get it to potentially we can break even, then we ought to just say that too. I mean, I just want to know what the answer is going into the future. And I hope it's not a political gotcha game. Could we please engage in some collaboration and discussions to get this figured out where we're at? But please don't take this, and I don't think you should, and I don't think anything I've said would lead you to believe this, that this is anything saying anything about your management, because it's not. Okay, I'm just trying to figure it out. Just somebody help me. If I brought my numbers in here, okay, I've got 25 clients I billed this month, and I took 8,000 off in retainers, and I got this thing in there. I mean, I would imagine some of those numbers would go over people's heads because they don't have the numbers in front of them. I mean, it would be helpful to have the numbers in front of you. I mean, I said, sure, a bill gets all right, I've got seed bills in this amount, fertilizer in this amount, but I don't see this money doesn't come in until here, you know. I mean, you just got to you just got to project the numbers out. That's what we have to do. And I just hope I can see that report. And I hope if you have time, you can give a little bit of explanation to it, any particular number that you think needs to be further elaborated on. And I would encourage this committee and the members of this committee and the leadership of the county board and the county administrator to at least speak to the rest of us and let me know what's going to happen. I mean, what is the projection here?
I think,
Why I didn't hear that today?
May I,
please,
I don't know if I'm dealing with a rhetorical question or are you asking, because, first of all, let me try to remember the questions.
Well, I had the same problem with your presentation.
Okay,
Because you were firing numbers at me, but I didn't have the
right.
sheet in front of me.
So
I had problems with your presentation as well.
okay, not criticizing your presentation at all. And I didn't take you as being critical, nor am I threatened. Secondly, you said you guys know that I've found myself in a difficult situation. I enjoy difficult situations because difficult situations are like framing a house. I always loved framing houses because in 3 days' work, suddenly it looked like a house. You make rapid progress. There's low-hanging fruit. Thirdly, about turning the ship has turned, sir. The ship has turned. So if as an organization, annual losses are greater than 1 million, pushing 2 million, and then in 12 months' time, the loss is hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's progress. So the ship has turned. Census for 2021, the average census for 2021 was 73 residents. In 2022, it grew by 27%. Census growth in 1 year grew 27%. We're on pace to exceed that for 2023. So, in my opinion, having been in a situation where I analyzed facilities, I was VP of operations for a small company, over 5 facilities. I analyzed the Mr. Wileys and their progress and facility viability. And I have put myself under that same scrutiny, and I welcome it. But we have turned the ship. I don't know, the Titanic, if I remember right, was a cruise ship, which is why I don't go on cruises. But I understand, I've used the metaphor, having been involved in change management my whole career. We're not turning a canoe. We're turning a cruise ship. I can't stick a paddle in the ground and suddenly, or in the water rather, and suddenly we're going a different direction. Though I've not been on a cruise, friends of mine have, and they talked about being in a bay in Alaska, and it took 4 hours to turn that cruise ship around, compared to sticking a paddle next to a canoe and suddenly you're going a different direction. So it's going to take time. I feel like we've made significant progress. It's a team. The team has gotten on board, and we're working together to, and actually, we've been approached by the major hospitals in the area just in the last 6 months, cold called to be a part of their networks. They want to join hands with us, and I jokingly told one of them, we are going to become the rehab provider in the McLean County area, and this is a perfect time for your hospital to get on board at the ground level. And they laughed with me, but that's how I feel about it. We're moving. In June, we will have physicians from OSF who will be rounding at our facility for the part of their residency, which has never taken place in long-term care that I know of. So there are collaborations with the hospitals, communications with the directors of case management in both hospitals to continue census development, primarily Medicare census development, because that is the highest reimbursement of all the payer mixes. So quite frankly, I know that you're referring this to a report. This is data that I have in front of me so I can remember it. This is not a report. This is a stack of several different reports that help me do my own analytics. But again, at request, I will gladly produce whatever I can. I know that theoretically it's hearsay, but Ms. McNeil has said to me on numerous occasions that she's had more communication from the administrator of the nursing home recently than she has had in her career. So there's a lot of communication with the treasurer's office as well as with county administration. This is a viable department in the county. And I know that this is not what is proposed here, but if that viable operation in the county ever became available and I had the resources, it would be mine. That's how much I believe that it is a viable operation.
Member Friedrich, I have another meeting I have got to be at. So if we can pull this together, I would appreciate that. But Member Friedrich, you, and then Member Erickson.
Chuck, you went about this all wrong. your line of questioning. We'll talk about it later.
I
Member
respectfully
Erickson.
disagree. We are relying on you to be the expert. And you are here to provide us expertise. And I can't see the basis of your opinion without your numbers in front of me. I mean, I just need to see the numbers. I think where this went wrong, though, and I do want to say this, is that I wasn't the one asking for political gotcha. I was asking for collaboration. And now I'm being attacked for the very fact that I even asked the question.
I don't believe that's correct.
Well, I do believe that there is some validity to that.
I believe that Mr. Wiley answered your question.
No, he didn't answer all my
The
questions.
viability, he said that things have turned and that he is confident that it is moving ahead. I think we had this discussion when the chairman of the Health Committee, I think we need to allow the Health Committee to take this and run with this and then provide us with any insights to what we may be able to help them with, since they are the oversight, as opposed to us having an in-depth conversation with Mr. Wiley. And I'm going to close this.
Well, I just want to say in closing that, no, my question wasn't answered. I mean, we're told it's turning the corner and that it's viable, but we haven't got a projection as to what viable means and when we get to viable. Is viable meaning we're losing 100,000 or viable mean we're breaking even?
I don't believe that Mr. Wiley is going to be able to provide that information to you, and I think we are.
I don't think he's going to be able to provide it in any specificity,
So
but
the conversation really needs to end
well,
at this
I didn't
point.
get all my questions answered.
Then
Am I allowed to
county
talk to Mr.
administration-
Wiley on his own?
county administration will work with you to get those answered.
Am I allowed to talk to Mr. Wiley on my own?
I, as a county board member and as a public citizen, I think you probably can, but it would be most advisable to be working with our administration, because this committee, again, he does not report to this committee. He reports to the Health Committee. So
Okay,
that's
so
where
is that the
I
rule for every committee then?
I am done with this conversation.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Wiley. We need to go into closed session, and our vice chair is going to take the closed session from me since I am late for another meeting. So for F2A, and please take this